I'm Tanya Iser, an investigative reporter here at Channel 8. We're back from a break. I'm joined by Bernadine Steptoe, our WFAA senior political producer, and Stephanie Alvarado, who's our legal expert today. And I have promised I will keep going through these questions that folks have been emailing me, and I have got a whole bunch of them. So I think this is probably for you, Bernadine.
Okay.
This person's assuming the Senate won't sustain any articles. How do you think the voters will vote in Paxton's next reelection?
Well, we're primarily talking about the primary. I'm sure that's what the writer's alluding to. Well, you must remember the last election he only won during a runoff. So if I think he's going to get, you know what, to be honest with you, I'm not real sure.
Well, it's also re-election is several years from now, which is an eternity.
I understand, but if what his supporters are threatening, that we have short memories, long memories, that we won't forget, that they might turn out to ensure that he is elected. But I think that it's going to have a lot to do with who his opponents are in the primary. But remember, there's a short memory and a long memory in politics. Mm-hmm. And you also have the voucher issue that's coming up in October. So that's going to sort of change the focus from trying to stay mad about Paxton to trying to get the voucher program pushed through. So as of today, I wouldn't predict any way or the other.
Okay, so Jason Wheeler has a question. He texted me his question. I'm not going to say my cell phone on a live stream though. I'm afraid my phone would just blow up. He's curious of theories on who it benefits more the longer a jury is out. I'm going to let
That is a good question, and there's a lot of lore that goes along with that question. It used to be, when I was a young lawyer back in 1996, the school of thought used to be, if it comes back quick, that's not good for the defense. That means they have decided quickly to find the defendant guilty. Nowadays, you just really can't tell, and this is not your typical trial either, so I certainly would be remiss to try to speculate. But typically, plain vanilla trial, it's a school of thought that the faster they come back, the worse it is for you. We as defense attorneys hope it's taking a long time because there's a holdout or two, or maybe it's split back there and they're sticking to their guns like we asked them to do. But in this situation, with this not being your typical plain vanilla trial, I don't know. I would be, like I said, I would not even want to speculate.
Yeah, and it's not like in a normal trial where you got to have 12 people agree.
Correct. There's no unanimity required. That's true.
There's just, we got to reach this threshold one way or the other. So somebody's asking about the litmus test in the Senate is beyond a reasonable doubt. What was the litmus test in the House impeachment vote? The best description I can give on that is like a grand jury, right? I mean, that it's a grand jury indicts believing there's
probable cause for the case to be held over for trial.
It was a little bit like an indictment, for want of a better word.
Yes.
And so, with an indictment, you don't have to quote unquote prove the case. That's why you have a trial, which is what we've had. Somebody's asking, if he's convicted, is there appeals process? No. I mean, if he is removed, he is removed.
And you know what? And let me bring this point up too. Which we don't know how they vote in a real jury, real trial, but they're not. Once they cast that vote in the chamber, they're not allowed to change it.
Really?
Once they cast it, they have to move on. They can't change it, which makes a lot of sense because if you, like on a city council vote, if you vote and then see that vote is going a certain way, you can switch your vote and go with the vote so that you can bring it back up. But in this instance, once you cast that vote, you're done.
I'm sending this question to Bud because I don't know that I know the answer to it, and I don't want to read it aloud. So I'm going to see if maybe he knows the answer, because I don't know the answer to that one. Somebody's asking, like, do I think there were concessions made to Laura Olson being unavailable to testify? I mean, we don't really know exactly. We don't. I mean, anything that we say about that really is speculation. We really don't know. We just know that that she came. We thought she was going to testify, and then she didn't. And all they said for sure was that she was present but unavailable to testify.
Well, and remember, one of the senators stood up and asked, "What does that mean?" And Patrick said, "It means what I just said." That
he didn't
both
try to
sides agreed with it, and this is what it is.
Yeah, let's. Jay is going to play that audio, that exchange. How long is it going to take you to do it? 20 seconds. Okay, we're looking at a video of Laura Olson the day that she arrived to testify, and they announced that she would testify, and then there was this waiting period, and then we learned late in the afternoon that she was not going to testify. So that was a very interesting day. A lot of things happened that day that we did not expect, including Rusty Hardin seemingly resting without meaning to. At least, I mean, I think he planned to rest, but maybe not right at that moment. Or maybe he faked us out and he meant to do it, but he wanted us to think he didn't meant to do it. What do you think?
Could be.
I mean, because was it a fake out? Could it have been a fake out?
I don't know.
But if you believe him, though, you know, he said it was a mistake.
I think it was.
Yeah, he said it was a mistake.
What y'all thinking? They're gonna finish today?
I don't know. Somebody's asking me in the room if we think they're going to finish. I have no idea. I mean, my gut says they will, but I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so next question. So somebody's asking if they convict on one or they sustain on one of them, do they have to continue voting? They when they come up to vote, they vote on all of them, right? So I mean, they vote on. They
vote on each one.
They vote on each one.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would think they would continue. I don't know why they wouldn't. Yeah, they'll
according
continue.
to the rules, they have to vote on each one.
Yeah.
And then if one is sustained, then he will be removed, but they keep going.
You got it? Jay is gonna play that audio for us.
Mr. President, we call Laura Olson to this.
Laura Olson, the bailiff will bring Laura Olson. The House Board of Managers called Laura Olson. She is present but has been deemed unavailable to testify. The statement has been made by the court. It says what it means. Both sides have agreed to that statement. Both statements have agreed to that statement.
And that senator that we saw standing up, that's actually Nathan Johnson, who's a Dallas senator. Mm-hmm. So that's one of our local senators who clearly was questioning what happened, because obviously I think they were also expecting her testimony and were a little surprised by the outcome. So this person's asking, while in deliberation, are political parties allowed to caucus and arrive at group decisions? I mean, there's nothing in the rules that say really what they can and can't do in deliberations other than they have to be in the room together. Yeah,
but remember, Patrick said it's an individual vote.
That's true, but there's going to be some kind of deliberations.
Oh, we don't know what they're talking about.
We just don't know. I mean, what's going on in that room is anybody's guess at this point. We haven't heard any word. I mean, maybe later on after things come out, we'll hear some sense of what happens. Okay, so who takes the Attorney General's position if the articles are sustained?
Remember, Abbott has already appointed his I think chief of staff in it, and it stays there until he either appoints someone else or his term runs out or he calls a special election.
Yeah, and I know and I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't know all the rules on that. So, but I would have to look that one up. Did the Senate jurors set the rules? Can they now vote to change them? No. Well, they did set the rules, but they're not going to vote to change them because now they're in deliberations. Yes. There'd be no reason to do that. I don't think they could change them at this late in the game anyway. Let's keep going here. Somebody says, Did you notice that Dan Patrick, who got his start in talk radio, did not include listening to the radio in his list of media injunctions when the senators were released to start their deliberations? I didn't notice that, but even so, I don't think he meant anything by it, one way or the other. Okay, so here's a question for Stephanie. Can you plead the fifth when matters are not illegal?
No, because the short answer is no. Because the answer, you can only assert the Fifth Amendment, your constitutional right, against self-incrimination if the things you believe you are going to testify about would make you the subject of a criminal prosecution. So usually you discuss that with a lawyer before you're going to do that. You don't just blindly say, well, I'm going to assert the Fifth. You would get some kind of legal advice about that, or somebody who is at least versed in the constitutional law enough to tell you, no, that's not tantamount to that. That's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do that. But you have to have you have to believe, and it has to be true, that you could be the subject of a criminal prosecution based on what you're going to be asked about or what you're going to testify about.
So someone's asking if he wins, can the Fed still prosecute? Yes. This doesn't have anything to do with whatever's going on a federal level. That continues, and of course, based on everything, the reporting, and based on the testimony in this trial, there is a federal grand jury, or there was one, but we don't know. There's been nothing to say exactly where that stands. If Paxton is convicted and removed, is the AG's office required to allow those who took a leave of absence to return to work? I mean, they said they could return to work. I mean, Brent Webster said they could return to work. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, I would think they would open themselves up to a different set of problems if they didn't let them return to work. So, because they gave them temporary leaves of absences, and so I don't know. I mean, I assume that Brent Webster will allow them to return to their jobs. Let's see. Is there an opportunity for appellate review? I mean, there is no, I mean, this is the decision of the Senate, and that's it. So somebody's asking, so Dan Patrick addressed the senators and said they should vote with beyond a reasonable doubt. Does that apply when this is not a criminal trial?
Yes, because that's the standard they've adopted.
Yeah, they've adopted that standard, and so that is the standard that they have said they're going to, and explain reasonable doubt to people. I mean, what does reasonable doubt mean? Come on.
Well, the lawyer in me says I'm not allowed to. I'm not. If I were trying a case, the law does not allow me to explain to a jury what that it is. I can skate really close.
Well, you can explain, but you're not.
And most of us lawyers, we explain it in a comparative sense. We use a graphic, stair steps, the lowest being reasonable suspicion, which is what you have to be which is what you have to be investigated. Probable cause, the next step, what is needed to arrest you or charge you. Clear and convincing evidence, no preponderance of the evidence. Someone's suing you in a car wreck. That's what they've got. That's what their standard is in a civil trial. Clear and convincing. That is what they have to take your kids away from you. And then at the very top is beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's a lot. Things that would make you. We used to have under the Gisa case. We used to be able to say something that would make you hesitate in the most important of your affairs. When I was a prosecutor, that's what I used to be able to say. We can't say that anymore. Now we're supposed to say it is what you think it is. All right? It is what you think it is. So
it's really just a personal.
We're not supposed to invade the province of the jury. So.
But it doesn't mean you have to set aside all common sense, right?
That is exactly right, and the House has done. They have done a good job of talking about that when they were arguing, saying it is doubt based, but based on reason. Okay, not beyond all doubt. Not beyond all doubt. Don't get led down that path. It is not beyond all doubt.
So somebody asked, how effective do we think Representative Leach's comments were in closing arguments for the prosecution?
Very.
I thought he was
very
really good.
effective. He brought a personal portion to the whole trial, and I think that he tried to alleviate the narrative that they hated Paxton.
Approximate time deliberating. We have a timer going now.
Oh, we have a timer going now.
That's
Oh,
approximate time deliberating.
very cool. I like that.
Oh,
So they got a clock up there for us. Man, we've
Nice.
upped our game.
good.
Way to go, Jay. See,
Jay.
Eric is working it. Eric and Stacy. He's there we go. Okay, but go
Well,
ahead.
we-
No, we were talking about Jeff Leach.
Yes, I think that he was very effective. The defense implied that Paxton was going through this impeachment because the House hated him, and Leach said, "No, that's not the case. Matter of fact, we were friends until things just started happening and they were questionable." But I think that he was the excellent person in narrative to end the defense, the prosecutor's case. So he was very, very effective.
Well, I kept thinking throughout the week or throughout this trial that as I saw him at that prosecution desk, and I don't remember who I said it to, but I remember saying out loud to somebody, I bet they end with Leach.
Yeah.
He's Collin County. He is, you want to end with someone who has that personal relationship or had that personal relationship with Ken Paxton, who can say, like he did, this is my friend, this was my friend, we worked together, we got stuff done together, but I can't condone this behavior, and that's what Jeff Leach was able to do.
Yeah. And you know what too? He personally connected with those senators, because he said that I know it's a hard vote. It was a hard vote for me, and I think that he put in the minds of some of those senators, especially those up in Collin County, that hey, I know it's a hard vote, but if you look at the evidence, and he also said that up until a few years ago, it was different. Something changed, and then it gets back to the point of what changed, and then the prosecutors want to say it was the affair, or trying to cover up, but that's what the evidence showed or tried to show.
Okay. Somebody's asking about that email that they really wanted to get in yesterday afternoon. This was the email that the prosecution tried to get in during Dorfman's testimony. That was the deputy first assistant. I have no idea what that email was, but I think it was something they really, really wanted to get in. And I think they were, based on the context of it, they were going to use it to impeach him in some way, but we just don't know what it was. Maybe one day, maybe somebody will reach out to me and tell me what that was, because I very much would like to know what it was. Because it seemed like it was pretty important, because they spent some time on it, trying to get it in. They really did.
And Patrick, did he stop the clock?
Stopped the clock at one
Yeah.
point, and they had went back and forth, and then ultimately it didn't come in. But I was very curious. It felt like it would have been good to have, but we don't always get what we want. So,
And you know what, Tanya? That was one time that clock came in that was not good for them, how they ran it out at the beginning. Because they didn't have time to focus on trying to get that memo. They had to move on.
yeah. Well, we don't know how much time they had left. Actually,
Well, we knew that they didn't have a lot.
now we knew it wasn't a lot, but they didn't actually announce at the end how much time was left. So we don't actually know. We don't know if it was 5 minutes, was it 10 minutes, was it 20? The other thing was they didn't know how many witnesses the defense was going to call. So they had to be careful about not eating up too much of their clock.
in case they needed
Yeah, that's
it.
true.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
That is definitely true.
But it felt to me like Busby wasn't thrilled with what he was hearing from those witnesses, and he decided to quit while we're ahead.
Oh,
That's how it felt to
absolutely.
me. That's how it felt.
That's how it felt to me as well.
Okay, so somebody's asking about basically, in other words, allowing Senator Paxton to be counted in the total vote. In a way, isn't it essentially giving A.G. Paxton an automatic vote against the article without Senator Paxton having to cast a vote? I mean, not exactly, but it does mean you have to. It's a little bit. Just one more. It's a one more vote you have to get.
It raised the
It raised the bar.
percentage.
Yeah, it raised the number. But really, that's just
But actually, it helped him in that way that they had to get more senators to vote not to sustain it or whatever, but it didn't affect. No.
Yeah, somebody's asking how to find the recordings from each day of the Ken Paxton trial. You can title a trial. Sorry, getting tired. You can find that on our YouTube page, and we actually have a playlist for this trial, so you can easily find that. Somebody's asking me how would I rank this in importance amongst all the stories I've covered. Gosh, I've covered so many stories. It's hard to rank it. I mean, I don't know.
Rank it according to the trials you've covered. I know they didn't ask that.
I did Amber Geiger. I mean, that was a huge trial. Aaron Dean. I mean, I think Amber Geiger was really big. I mean, I'm not saying this is a political importance, right? And so it's hard to say. And I mean, I covered about 10 years ago. I covered the death penalty trial for Eric Williams, who killed the DA, his wife, and a prosecutor down in Kaufman County. And honestly, that was a case that was I was all in the middle of, because I had covered it as a Dallas Morning News reporter, and then I had come over here, and so that was actually my first TV trial. And so that's the one case. If I could pick a case and say I should have written a book, that's the one.
You can still write a book.
Yeah, but I was.
I'm telling you.
I was so busy when it all. It's funny because I covered that as a DMN reporter, and I look back and I think, why wasn't I taking like a daily journal? Because there was so much happening all the time. We were working crazy hours. Wait a minute, I'm working crazy hours right now. But anyway, but I look back and I go, wow, that was the one. And you know how it is as a reporter. You're so busy like actually doing the job, and you don't have to. I'm not a person who sits down in journals, so there we go. I should have. That was the one I should have. So honestly, I think for me that trial was probably my biggest one. Eric Williams, and he's still sitting on death row, and he is, eventually, presumably, going to, be executed in the state of Texas at some point. So but he's still fighting his appeals process. So somebody's asking, they understand that Senator Paxton. They're asking why she can communicate with other senators. They're not supposed to be talking about before this. They weren't supposed to be talking about the case. So there's no way to know
what they're talking about.
Yeah, okay. So I'm kind of running through these questions, guys. I'm just going to keep going here. Somebody asking me what I think. I don't know. I'm being careful about what I say. Okay, so somebody's asking me if I think they got to Laura Olson. I don't know. I think it could just be as simple as what we've already discussed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm keep going through these questions here. Oh, well, somebody's a tenant in Nate Paul's properties, and they're just sending some rumors. I'm not going to read those aloud. Are you surprised that we're still deliberating? All right, let me turn on my thing because Jay's trying to talk to me. I got you now. I can hear you. Oh, do you want to play the? Okay, we can. Okay, so Jay is going to play the story that talks about Angela Paxton, so we can kind of get her background.
Good evening. Ken Paxton's campaign still has this video posted on its YouTube channel from 7 years ago.
Well, I am Angela Paxton, as my last name might kind of give away. I am married to our Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton.
Before winning election to the Texas Senate, Angela Paxton sometimes campaigned with her husband and sang.
I'm a pistol packing mama, and my husband Sue's Obama. I'm a pistol packing mama, yes I am.
Angela and Ken met at Baylor University. They married in 1986 and had 4 children. Through the years, they've shared several family photos on social media. She was a career educator, a teacher, and then a guidance counselor. 16 years after her husband entered politics, she did too.
Angela Paxton is an educator with 22 years of experience helping kids reach their dreams.
In 2018, Angela Paxton ran for the same state Senate seat Ken Paxton once held. She won, and won again in 2022. As a senator, she's also now a juror in her husband's impeachment trial. But she is a juror without a vote.
The motion is adopted.
The Texas Senate approved 31 rules to govern the upcoming trial, and Rule number 31 applies solely to Angela Paxton. It says spouses have a conflict of interest. It allows her to hear all of the evidence, but that's all she can do. When senators deliberate behind closed doors, she will not listen in or weigh in. Her presence counts towards the total number of votes needed to convict her husband, but she will not cast a vote on anything. Senator Paxton voted against those rules. Then she put out a statement saying she will do everything in her power to be a voice for the people of her district. Never before has a Texas Attorney General been impeached. And never before
I'm a pistol packing mama, yes I am.
has a senator sat in on her husband's impeachment trial. In Dallas, I'm Teresa Woodard.
So the next person's that's the second time I've heard that story. Wow. Okay, so somebody says, who do you think gave the most impactful testimony during this trial, and do you think that testimony will sway anybody's vote? You know, I thought Brandon Kamek, Drew Wicker, Missy Carey, probably David Maxwell. Those are my four.
Those are my four.
I mean,
and I put Brandon up at the top, and I liked Missy.
Missy and Brandon and Drew Wicker, they don't really have a dog in the hunt, and they're not whistleblowers. They're just people that are probably in the last place they prefer not to be. And do you think any testimony will sway anybody's vote?
Brandon's, if any vote is swayed, but I think that Brandon, he raised too many ifs. Why? And wondering, why did you hire this person? So and I liked Maxwell's. He was, to me, it was as if it was a craft for him.
Yeah, well, he was like Walker Texas Ranger kind of thing.
He's a cop's cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his testimony was very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, and he came across as somebody just that long time Texas Ranger. I thought he was very impressive.
And it also made me wonder, whatever his reason, and I know that they've given it, why would you fire someone that's respected so much? Why would you take that risk? I know I loved his testimony, and I just asked a lot of questions in my mind.
Well, and Wicker's testimony, I think, was pretty powerful too, because I mean, this is the guy who spent a lot of time with Ken Paxton and clearly still likes Ken Paxton, but felt like there was a lot of things that worried him, concerned him.
He was uncomfortable.
And the least effective, I think some of the whistleblowers were, I mean, it wasn't that they were, it just felt like the people that were the most effective were the people that had less of a dog in the hunt, except for Maxwell. Banger was also good too. Banger was good, and so was Blake Brickman. But I do think that those were my favorite, the first four that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Let's keep going here. They're going to take us live at 4, so I got to also kind of be mentally. We'll start. I'll warn you guys out there on the live stream where we're kind of about to go do that. Oh, so let's see here. They're not showing Bernadine doing her makeup.
Okay.
It's all good. You can do your makeup. Folks on the live stream don't care.
Well, that was
hey,
my
it's getting
signal.
real, you know what it looks.
That was my signal. Oh my goodness. Sorry.
Somebody's asking like, What do you think the discussions among the Senate jurors are like right now? I don't know. I mean, do you think there's a lot of discussion back there, Stephanie?
I don't know. I mean, so many people, and I mean, Bud has said this, and I think a lot of us that have been watching this for the last 2 weeks tend to agree. And this happens a lot of times as a lawyer, as a trial lawyer. You go into a case thinking, all right, well, I know how this is, I have a tendency to feel how this is going to turn out. I have a gut feeling. And then it plays out, the evidence is presented, the matter unfolds, and you feel differently. I don't know because this is a political trial. I don't know that there probably is, if there is much discussion. And who's to say, and Bernadine, you could talk about this because I like your theory about the whole splitting the baby thing. I mean, if there is discussion, do you think that there is bargaining going on back there? Like, do you think somebody's saying, I live in a district where it is not a possibility for me to vote this way, but you don't, madam, wherever you're from, and maybe we could work something out?
I think that they could say, okay, we remove him because the evidence has come out.
In other words, a Solomaic type thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
then, allow him to run again, and then the voters can decide after they've heard all of this information, because it raises the question as to why they separated it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea I don't know what.
But I don't know now. Hey, that's why we're up here.
I most certainly do not claim to have all the answers.
Yeah.
People want to know if we'll get access or see the exhibits shown to the senators and jury members. A lot of these exhibits were actually included in, if you go to the Senate impeachment site, a lot of them, back in mid-August, the House impeachment managers dropped a lot of these exhibits, but they're numbered a little differently. So, because I think once they started entering them into the trial, but they may at some point post them again. I don't know, but a lot of that stuff, a lot of those exhibits are actually available on that site. Somebody's asking me, if there's no conclusion today, will you be live tomorrow? Yes. Yes, I'll be here. I will be here. I had something else I was supposed to do, but yes, I will be here. I will be here until the bitter end. Whatever the end is, I will be here for it. And if it goes into Sunday, I will go to church first. And then I will be here. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Kind of how things turn out. But my instincts are still that this wraps today. I mean, is that your instinct? Can you tell me that that's going to happen? Because that's what I really think.
Well, I can't tell you that it is definitely going to happen, but that's what the speculation is.
I mean, it just because generally, and I understand this is not a typical juror, but generally jurors want to go home for the weekend.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
So. So somebody's asking about Busby, and I'll ask you this: why was Busby allowed to state his own opinions in closing, as well as a number of misleading or false statements that were not produced as evidence at trial?
And I meant to talk about this before we got started, and I think Lieutenant Patrick hit on this, but I don't think he talked about it very much. Closing arguments are not evidence. They are not evidence, and so when lawyers get up there and make these impassioned speeches, they are obviously putting their spin on their case that they put on, the evidence. They're highlighting what they feel are the strong points on their side, but they can be impassioned. They can be a little bit more fast and loose because the rules, not so many rules of evidence apply to arguments because they are not evidence. Arguments are not evidence. And so that's why you hear lawyers skate close to the line, and some of them are very impassioned. Exhibits are used, things are done like that. There's a little bit more leeway than there is at the case in chief portion of the trial. So that's why it's just there's no rule against it. There are rules with respect to closing argument. Don't argue things, facts that are not in evidence, which he did make that objection to the other side. But as far as like voicing his opinion and him injecting himself into it, talking about being a Marine, things like that, those things are all allowed because it is not closing arguments are not evidence.
So somebody asked, does Paxton have any legal recourse if he is removed? No. This is a constitutional process, and this is the final arbiter, whatever the Senate decides to do. Okay, so somebody's emailing from the United Kingdom. Wow. Okay. So do you and the panel think that a conviction for a maladministration article and not a criminal one like bribery opens a Pandora's box for future impeachments?
I definitely think that was the argument that Attorney Busby made.
Yeah.
He's like, think about the ramifications of this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, think about that. What is this going to mean for other people? Is this going to have a chilling effect on people running for office, on how our current elected officials conduct business in their office? I mean, he really hammered that home. That's something to think about. I mean, we really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I'm not gonna go there. So, I mean, I think it's difficult to know what could or would happen. The Supreme Court set the standard, and Bud has read it several times. It had to, because in Texas, you don't have to prove a crime was committed in order to remove from office. It has to do with, abuse of office, that kind of thing. I think the words were, it was like maladministration, and there was another word. I forget the other word that was in that Supreme Court opinion.
And then the House still has to vote it. So.
Yeah, so assuming the Democratic senators, okay, here's one. Assuming Democrat senators unanimously vote to sustain, should there be any criticism of them voting politically rather than on the facts? I guess somebody could make that argument.
Yeah.
Sorry, still going through my questions, but they're going to be taking us live soon, guys. I'm also kind of listening in my ear to this. So somebody asked why, and this is you, Stephanie. Why didn't the prosecution call Paxton? Well, they couldn't call Paxton because they said he couldn't call him. Yeah, I'm sorry. At the beginning of the trial, they ruled that Paxton could not be made to testify.
Right, which is the same case in a criminal trial.
Yeah, that's which would have been. Somebody wants to know what do we think are the one or two biggest mistakes made in the trial by the House managers and or by the defense? I thought time management was a problem for the House. Just a failure to manage that clock more effectively.
Well, and this is such an artificial way to try a case, and especially for these seasoned litigators. I mean, this is very different, even for these lawyers who are considered top tier, trial lawyers. It's very, very artificial and foreign to be able to work within those confines. I'm sure they had a lot more trial prep than they probably already would have to accommodate for that. I know just from practicing in Collin County, when I do practice in Collin County, the family law courts do that. They have to limit the litigants' trial or litigation hearings because because of the nature of that type of law, they can get out of control. So I know that's a whole different way to practice. I have so much respect for my family lawyer friends that work within those confines because it is very, very different. So Tanya, you're probably right. They probably didn't do a great job of that, but probably they didn't have a lot of experience having to try a case that way.
And my take on that is, I'd wait to see how the verdict goes.
Well, that's true.
Before I say that any mistakes
that something
were
was a
made
mistake.
because,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And from the defense side, I thought that the witnesses they put on yesterday didn't really help them. One of the things Deandra said yesterday was she thought the defense might have been better off just to rest, to say, you know what, they didn't prove their case. We don't have to put anything on.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
Exactly.
And I think that Busby realized that once they started testifying.
Because it felt like he ended it abruptly. That's how it felt to me. So that, let's see here. We got a few more questions before we go live on like the real TV.
I know that I start putting makeup on.
I know. Folks out there don't care if you put on makeup. You know, we can have. You know, Eric, can you put up some videos so that she can do her makeup?
No, I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done.
Oh, she's done.
I'm
Never
done.
mind. Never mind. She's done. It's good. So somebody wants to know if he's removed, would a special election occur to replace him?
Here it is. I
Yeah,
pulled it
yeah,
up.
because I feel like
I pulled it up.
Okay. So explain that.
Okay, Paxton's removal would create a vacancy under the law and trigger an election for the seat of the 2024.
And then you're reading from the Houston Chronicle.
And trigger an election
in the 2024 cycle.
The winner who makes it through the March primary and the November election will serve the final 2 years of Paxton's term. Okay, until the victor is sworn in, Governor Greg Abbott will appoint a replacement. Abbott already named Angela, I don't want to butcher her name, but his former deputy chief of staff as an interim while Paxton is suspended during the trial. He could choose her or someone else.
Right. So that answers that question. So the answer is eventually there'll be a special election sometime next year. Okay. Why? Somebody wants to know why aren't the deliberations being televised? Well, because it's akin to a jury, and jury deliberations are not televised, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think there'd be much good of trying to televise. I mean, well, not to say that I wouldn't mind being a fly on that wall, but it's not unusual for jury deliberations to be, for that to be. Sorry, I'm reading questions as I go here. I'm also listening in my ear for when they're going to take us live on TV. So. We're testing my abilities to multitask. We're just seeing how much can she multitask all at once. Can she read, can she listen, and can she talk? That's a lot. Okay, so this is an interesting one. This person says, a lot of senators may not appreciate Mr. Busby mocking the witnesses in his closing, particularly the, quote, 6'6" Texas Ranger. What do you think? What do you think, Stephanie?
Like I said, they have every lawyer has different styles. It's a stylistic thing. And if that's your style, you've got to, and he's been doing it a long time, he's got to know, and you've got to know, like, you could rub some people the wrong way. But that's his style. That's what he does. And, apparently he's doing very well. It hasn't hurt him. He's a very well-respected trial attorney. He does well financially, so while it may rub some the wrong way, it's you don't have to fix it if it ain't broke.
Well,
in his book,
we'll see. He's that approach is what he does in a regular. Well, of course, that's so different. It's just so different. In terms of, this is not your typical trial, and so and like Bernadine said, we'll see what worked when we see an outcome.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's when we'll and then again you're going to have some senators who probably knew what they were going to do from the very start.
And he's been doing it. That style he's been doing it the entire trial.
That's been his approach to attack law enforcement, which is kind of it's sort of an upside down. It really feels very upside down to me as somebody who's covered stuff for many decades. It just the whole thing.
But I think where he miscalculated was when he interrupted Jeff Leach.
Okay, we're in the
closing. Oh.
All right, guys, we're in the show. Jay, are you able to bring the show up and just show the show?
Potentially.
Because I gotta also pay attention to this. All right, folks, for that are watching us live out there, I'm also listening to the 4 o'clock they're gonna be taking us live on the regular TV, so I'm having to get myself mentally prepared for that. And I'm trying to see if they can bring that up live because it'll make my life a little easier if they do that. I probably should have asked them that earlier. But
Stand by, Tanya.
Wow, somebody said my name, like stand by, really loud. I don't know if you guys heard that out there. Well, you know, what we heard is the defense arguing that this is a political witch hunt, that these were rogue employees who got together and concocted a story and listened to speculation and rumor, and that they just really didn't have any evidence. And that we also heard that this was something that was, that this was just, that they presented no evidence and that there really was nothing to back this up. And of course, in the prosecution, we're hearing that Ken Paxton violated his oath of office, and that he deserves to be removed, and that he allowed a criminal investigation to be conducted on behalf of his friend and campaign donor, Nate Paul. So let's take a listen to both sides and what they had to say this morning during closing arguments.